Hello, my name is Tim Kahn, and I'm going to talk to you about volunteering for Ataxia UK, and in particular volunteering for the helpline and for running a local support group in South London where I live. The story really starts with me telling you a bit about my ataxia and about my dad's ataxia, and then I'll talk about volunteering. So for my ataxia, which I inherited from my dad, as I said, both my brother and I have it, so I went to my GP initially, and unusually he'd already seen someone with ataxia, so he knew straight away what to do. Did a few tests, and then referred me to the clinic, the ataxia clinic in London, where I got my diagnosis. That was about 10 years ago. So that was quite a smooth journey in contrast to what seems to happen to most people. And in fact, I'm fortunate in that I've got rather mild symptoms. My dad, his ataxia symptoms first appeared when he was 60-ish, and he was in his early 90s when he died. So my mum had a long time looking after him as his symptoms slowly got worse. But my symptoms are very mild, and mostly adapting my behaviour and taking care of my movements deals with my symptoms. And in fact, my symptoms show up most, I think, when I'm having an appointment with my neurologist and she does an eye test. And if there are students present, she'll get me to follow a finger like this, like I'm sure most of you have in your ataxia appointments. And if there are students present, she says typical ataxic eye movements. But I'm not really aware of those because, as I say, I've adapted my behaviour so that the ataxia doesn't interfere with my daily life. Now, for my parents, the experience was rather different. So my dad, as I've already said, had ataxia. So for about 30 years, he had the worsening symptoms, and my mum looked after him for a good chunk of that time. And she felt, I think, very alone with it, in that, first of all, people didn't know very much about it. And also there were lots of stupid attitudes towards disability. So, for example, her GP said to her, your husband, he doesn't want to use a wheelchair, does he? And also there was very little support. There was no support organisation around for her. So I felt, after I got my diagnosis, that I wanted to return the compliment to the ataxia community and, give back to them, because I'd felt very supported. In fact, I'd also used the helpline at Ataxia UK, and Sheila, who's on the helpline, was very helpful to me while I was getting my diagnosis. So I decided that I wanted to give back to Ataxia UK because of the lack of support that had been available for my parents. So I volunteer in a number of jobs. One of the things that I did was I used to go to the clinic, the Ataxia clinic in London, and see patients after they'd had their appointment, and often seeing new patients, there was a lot of emotional turmoil, so listening to how they felt, giving them some information to help them with pointers in how they might deal with things. Also seeing people who'd had an ataxia diagnosis some years ago, and also hopefully I was helping them on their journey, on their ataxia journey. So it was quite a short step to move from being a volunteer at the clinic to being a volunteer on the helpline. Perhaps the main difference being that rather than seeing people in person, I was listening to people on the phone, talking to people on the phone, or answering emails. Now, I must again, when there are new patients, helping them come to terms with their diagnosis in some kind of way, both providing a listening ear and giving them appropriate information. And I really enjoy the sense of using my knowledge about ataxia, which has been gleaned over the last 10 years or so that I've been involved with Ataxia UK, plus my experience with my dad when growing up. So I find the helpline I really enjoy that. I also run the support group in South London. Now, Frances started up the group and she ran it for a number of years, and then for health reasons felt she couldn't run it anymore, so I took the group over. And similarly, I really enjoy supporting people who've got ataxia, hopefully giving them new information and helping them come to terms with a diagnosis. What's different from the helpline, of course, is that you see people face to face, and mostly on the helpline you only have 1, 2 or 3 contacts with most people. Sometimes you don't even know their name, whereas of course in the support group you're seeing people every month. And of course over the last year and a half we've been meeting online, so not actually been seeing people in person but seeing people virtually. So we're going to start getting back to meeting face to face, and that will be good. So one of the things that I particularly enjoy about the support group is that you have ongoing relationships, sometimes over years, with people. So really I want to give a plug to volunteering for Ataxia UK. It's both helpful, I hope, to the people who I help, but also very fulfilling to me when I volunteer. Thank you for listening. Bye.